Hello again, everybody. I'm
Mark Feldhauer.
working with us today as our commentator and analyst,
Shawn Windsor.
now
The soul of Detroit.
are assembled in the tunnel, and the crowd is coming to its feet. And when
ML Everett.
come onto the field, you'll hear a roar that'll knock pine cones out of trees 50 miles away.
You asked interrogative questions around my face. It's gone.
What are you doing?
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now, Albert?
Hey kids, it's your old pal ML Eric back in studio after a week in Chicago. You know, it's kind of weird to go to a major city where every building isn't owned by Dan Gilbert. But that was a nice change. It actually made me feel like Detroit is really small because there are skyscrapers everywhere. There are skyscrapers going up, and they're actually being built by multiple different people. So that was really weird. But I do have to admit that I felt a very slight longing to be back here in the dungeon with my friends Marc Feldhauer and Shawn.
I, for one, am glad you're back here.
I'm glad you're back. Where'd you go?
Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Where were you last week? You don't remember?
I thought maybe you went somewhere else.
No, I'm heading to Costa Rica next week, so we'll
That's
talk
right.
about that at the end of the show, including my preparation. I just got the booster shot yesterday, and not feeling 100%, but not feeling bad. And if you've been reading about this Omicron, I would urge everybody to get vaccinated, and to if you've been vaccinated and it's been a while, get the booster shot. But that's not the big news here. It is across the world that this pandemic is mutating and spreading and infecting people. The big news here is sadly a story that seems to leap from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and that is a troubled kid goes to school with a gun, and now there are a lot fewer kids and there are a lot more troubled kids because they've been traumatized for having to go to school. In fact, I got a call from my daughter after this happened, who's doing her student teaching, and she was freaking out because she's like, what is going on? You know, I mean, is this the profession I'm getting into where I could go to school and have to fight a kid or save a kid or be killed by a kid? And I didn't know what to say. You think you're sending your kid into the teaching profession. I mean, she wanted to go on her own. It's not like we assigned her, but you figure what's a safer place than being in a school? But not so. And tragically, it's here in Michigan. And
look at how it affects the whole area. It's not just the 4 dead, the other wounded, or the kids that even go to Oxford. It's, it's all over the place because everyone's worried about it. We've seen all the death threats too, which is an interesting topic. I kind of want to ask our guest about today too.
Yeah, and that brings us to Mike Rataj, defense counselor extraordinaire, charitable dude non-Periel, who joins us on the as yet unsponsored Zoom line. If somebody wants to sponsor that, we'll take your money. But Mike, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, ML.
So we want to talk a little bit about this case and what you think of some of the matters at hand. And one of the things that we might use as a launching point is a story that my wife, Teresa Baldus, wrote today in the Free Press about how the parents have hired a couple of attorneys who have a pretty decent track record. Certainly they're being paid by the parents, but the kid who is facing the even heavier charges pulls a court-appointed attorney that the rest of us are going to pay for. And I was wondering, what did you think when you saw that the folks are willing to pay for their own lawyer, but junior's on our dime?
I'm not sure how to really interpret that or how to view it. It doesn't make any sense to me, though. You would think that the parents would be more interested in using their funds to make sure that their son has the best attorney that they could afford, as opposed to throwing him to the wolves and letting him have a court-appointed lawyer. I don't really even know who these lawyers are. All I know is that they haven't been lawyers very long. The word on the street, and of course you can put whatever credence you want into it, is that they solicited these people, which wouldn't be proper. But I don't know that to be a fact. It's been told to me.
What do you mean they solicited?
They haven't been lawyers very long. And there's certainly a lot of more competent attorneys out there. And I certainly watched the Zoom the other day, and I was not very impressed with the way they handled themselves. So, I mean, that's about all I can say about that. I don't know who they are. All I know is that they haven't been lawyers very long, and I think they're over their head.
Well, the two attorneys are Shannon Smith and Mariel Lehman, and they defended Nasser, the doctor in the female mutilation trial.
Well, yeah, my
names.
Dear friend Mary Chartier did all the heavy lifting in that case.
Okay,
her and I actually were admitted as fellows to the American Board of Criminal Lawyers together. I know Mary very well. I mean, she's she's top notch. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And she did all the heavy lifting in that case, in the mutilation case, not the other two. So, and of course, the Larry Nasser case was nothing but a slow plea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mike, we've seen attorneys make their name with a high profile client. And I'm thinking specifically of Jeff Feiger and Dr. Death. That was a case where I don't think anybody knew who Jeff Feiger was before he took that case. And afterwards, now he owns a friggin' island. So I'm wondering, do lawyers, and I don't know whether they solicited this or not, but do lawyers look for a defendant and say, this is a case that's going to have me out there all the time. This is the kind of case where I will offer my services because in the long run, this is going to put me on the map.
Well, I can only speak for myself, and I never viewed any of my clients that way or any of the cases that I've had that way. So if that was their motivation, then I think that that speaks volumes about the attorneys.
Sure, and I don't want to suggest that that's their motivation, but I know you've taken on some tough cases, and maybe a motivation could be, hey, this is going to be a real test of my legal acumen. I'm taking on somebody that everybody thinks is a bad dude, and if I can do a good job for them, people will, I'll improve as an attorney. People will come to view me as someone who takes the tough cases and gets a good result or best result possible for my client. I mean, do lawyers, are they ever motivated by that? Boy, oh boy, this is the case of a lifetime, and I want to be right in the middle of it.
Well, again, I'm only going to speak for myself. I've never looked at it that way. I've been fortunate, where cases have landed in my lap. I didn't seek them out. And so, our job is to represent the accused. Okay. And, I've never solicited a client. I never, went out and said, oh, this is the case that's going to put me on the map. The cases have fallen in my lap. I've been fortunate to have a number of high profile cases in my career and work with other phenomenal lawyers. And it just, I guess it's just the cards that have been dealt to me. But I certainly I've never looked at a case and said, well, this is going to make my career. Because you're only as good as your last case. And just like in hockey, ML, you're only as good as your last shift. So
my last shift is never very good, so I'm sorry to hear that.
So what can I tell you, bro?
I was hoping there's a magic bullet out there, some cream or something.
Right on. But no, it's like, what can I tell you? I can only speak for myself. I've never looked at it that way.
Well, let's assume that these two lawyers, they're high profile. Let's assume they're good. Could it be? I don't know
how you can be good when you've been out for 5 or 6 years? How many trials do they actually have under their belt?
Sure.
But
what
I don't know them.
Yeah.
And so it'd be unfair for me to comment other than the fact that they're awfully young to be handling a case like this. And I personally think they're over their head. And there's certainly a lot of more accomplished lawyers out there that could be handling this case. But to the original point, why are they spending money on themselves and not using those funds for their boy?
Could it be because their charges might be easier to beat?
It could be a lot of reasons. That's a really good question, but I have no idea how to answer that because you're asking me to get into somebody's head.
So, Mike, can you explain to us how the court-appointed attorney system works? I know at the federal level, you can make yourself available and at a reduced rate. And you look at some of the folks who are available for court appointment, folks like, I believe yourself, right? And Jim Thomas and some other top-notch attorneys.
The federal panel is a different ballgame than in the state court system. In the federal system, to be on the federal panel, you have to have had so many federal trials. You have to have people on the panel vouch for you. There's a vetting process, I guess. In state court, there's no vetting process. You have to handle capital cases, I guess. I've never taken state court appointments, just for the record, not even in Wayne County. So, but I do know lawyers that do. And in order to handle capital cases, you have had to have been on taking court appointed cases for a long time. And, like there's great lawyers like Gabby Silver and David Cripps and Ben Gonick and Maria Manorino in Wayne County that take court. I'm trying to think out in Oakland County. I think that my friends, Jerry Sabota and Mitch Rabitwer take appointments out there. They're phenomenal lawyers.
Okay, so you can still get a very high quality attorney who's court appointed at the state level. It's not just rock stars on the bench in the Fed courts.
You can. It's hit or miss, in my opinion. You can get a really a competent attorney at the state court level, but there's not a vetting process per se.
What would Mike? What would be the goal with the kid if you're the lawyer? I mean, when you have incontrovertible evidence that party's guilty.
Yeah, I mean, we call it damage control.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Now, is the kid competent? I'm sure there's going to be some kind of forensic evaluation done, I would imagine. Is he going to, who knows? Is he going to point the finger at his parents and say that they put all this craziness in my head? I guess they're Trumpers. That's what I've read. Who the hell knows? But, you have to be involved in the case to really figure out what moves you're going to make. And I'm certainly, I'm up in the bleachers up in right field. It's hard for me to render an opinion about how you're going to defend this kid. But certainly there's moves that you can make. And I'm sure that the lawyer is going to, look, our job is to make sure that person's constitutional rights are protected. At the end of the day, that's what our job is. And so I'm sure whoever's going to be representing this boy is going to do everything that they can to make sure that all of his constitutional rights are protected. And at the end of the day, you may still be in the same spot that we are today. He's guilty, and it's unfortunate that the kid's life is over before it even got started. And of course, the same can be said for the victims. Mm-hmm. So it's unfortunate all the way around. It's a sad story, but this is not anything new. Okay. We've been seeing this since Columbine. Okay. Mm-hmm. And there's been nothing done. Okay. If we want to get political for a minute, the Democrats have tried to introduce sensible gun control in this country. The Republicans have blocked it at every turn. And so here we are still asking the questions after another school shooting, how do we prevent this? Well, sensible gun control would be the place to start. And of course, it starts in the house as well, right? So, we need to stop putting guns. We got so many guns on the streets. We got so many guns in our homes. And, I don't see any Republican come out at the federal level or even at the state level and saying we need to do something about this.
No, in fact,
have you seen anybody say anything?
No, in fact, I saw the opposite. A couple of local politicians saying we need to put more guns in schools. But Mike, just think back to
think about that.
No, but
okay.
Think back to, you mentioned Columbine. Think back to the shock that we felt with that. Do you obviously remember what that was like? Mike and Mark remember what that was like. When was the last time we felt shock when one of these things happened like that? It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Sandy Hook was pretty shocking. But,
Sandy Hook. I mean, can
Because
you
the kids
imagine
were younger.
walking
It was a
into
little
a
kids.
classroom
Yeah.
full of 5 and 6 year olds just slaughtered with a military assault weapon?
It would be Sandy Hook, and even that was how many years ago? It's
Yeah.
Obama was president.
Yeah,
So it was,
right.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
but this has been going on. So why are we shocked?
We're not anymore, unfortunately. We're resigned.
Well, there's a lot of shocking things in this story, namely with, some of the parental choices that James and Jennifer Crumbly made, which, they're guilty in the court of public opinion for being terrible, terrible parents. I mean,
Right.
there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But I'm still a little bit shocked they were charged with involuntary manslaughter. And in general, Mike, how hard is that for the prosecutor to convict involuntary manslaughter when they weren't even at the scene?
Well, it's a gross negligence standard, okay, and it's an unintentional killing, and the standard is one of gross negligence. So were they grossly negligent? Did their gross negligence cause, these killings?
Yeah, 4 deaths. Mm-hmm.
So is that something like the kid says, "Hey, mom and dad, I think I want to shoot up a bunch of kids," and you just go like, "Junior, you're a knucklehead. By the way, Merry Christmas. Here's your gun." And whatever happened to giving people Christmas presents on Christmas?
Yeah.
I mean,
right on.
Not that that's a crime, but I mean, he got this gun in November. It's like, dude.
We got it for the
Yeah,
rep.
I mean, it's insanity. Okay, absolute insanity. But it seems to me that the parents are in that camp where don't take away our guns, and the government's coming to take away our guns, and we're just stupid, just absolutely stupid.
Now, can some of their other parenting decisions, namely with, I know James had another kid down in Florida and didn't seem to really do much with that kid. Does that play into like this involuntary manslaughter, just being a bad parent?
Well, no. I mean, that would be completely irrelevant, in my opinion, as to this situation, this case. So what, he was a bad parent to his other child. I mean, to me, it has no relevance whatsoever.
So, Mike, if you were defending the parents or the kid, where do you start?
Well, you need more. I mean, look, you have to wrap your arms around the facts, okay? And I don't have all the facts, so obviously it's hard for me to sit here and Monday morning quarterback what's going on because I don't have all the facts, okay? You're reading the paper that they were running, and then you read, and then they weren't running, and then they were running, and then they weren't running. I mean, you got to be involved in these cases to be able to say, well, this is how I'm going to handle this particular case. It's hard for someone like myself who's just getting his information from the news on TV and in the papers to say, well, this is what they should or shouldn't do. So that's a good question, but it's an impossible question for me to answer being up in the bleachers.
Well, I know you've got some other clients so you have to get to this afternoon. I just had one thing I want to ask you before you go about if you were this kid's attorney. And I think back to, I know you've had some clients who were gang members, were pretty tough customers. And I remember a case that Jim Thomas had just as the Kilpatrick case was heating up, where he had, I think the kid was from Livonia or Plymouth, who had actually sawed a guy's head off in his garage. And that kid was also a teenager. What's it like as you start to learn these facts and see these reports and these allegations and this evidence to sit next to somebody who may really be a dark and scary person? I mean, how do you deal with that? Do you ever say like, oh my God, or do these people, they seem perfectly normal when you're sitting down having a coffee with them and saying, okay, let's go over your case?
Well, look, we're criminal defense lawyers. We took an oath, right? We took an oath to uphold the Constitution. And so you don't make moral judgments about the people that you're sitting next to. Now, I can tell you probably the worst human being, and he's dead now, so I can talk about it, was when I represented Joe Marasco, the Grosse Pointe murder case back in the mid 2000s. He was probably one of the most vile human beings that I've ever sat next to. But you don't look at it that way. I mean, at least I don't. I have a client, I have a job to do, and I'm going to do it. I don't have people sit down and fill out a questionnaire and, some kind of a moral test and have them check off the boxes and then make a decision whether or not I'm going to represent them, whether they passed my moral test or not. That's not, we're the attorneys for the damned, just like Clarence Darrow said, and that's our job. And yeah, we have our personal feelings and our personal thoughts, but those all have to be put to the side.
What's their demeanor
you have a job
like?
to do, and it doesn't matter whether your client is the most evil person on earth. You still have to approach it the same way every time.
Sure.
So,
well, that's what professionalism is. But I just wonder,
right.
When you encounter these folks, are there some people where you're like, do they just come and say, "Hey, Mike, how's it going? How's the case going?" Or they come in and say, "Okay, Mike, when we're done with this, I got a couple cheerleaders under the porch we got to take care of because, I'm kind of weird like that."
Unfortunately, I've never had anybody say that to me. But certainly people, there have been,
I don't have a back porch.
Yeah, right. I'm just saying, these are all great questions. But I just don't, I guess, in some ways, we always try to find some reason to like our client, and they may come in and say, they may appear perfectly normal, during your first encounter with them. And, that they've been accused of doing something heinous. But I think that most good lawyers will try to find some reason to like their client, where everybody else just doesn't see that. And you get to know these people, and sometimes you have empathy for them. Maybe they grew up and they had a bad hand dealt to them when they were young. Who knows? It just runs the gamut. There's no way to, paint the entire practice of criminal law with a broad brush. But I guess the bottom line is I just don't make moral judgments about my clients. I have a job to do, and I do it. And by protecting the worst of the worst, you're really protecting everybody else from governmental tyranny, from kangaroo courts. When we represent the worst of the worst, we're actually protecting everybody, to make sure that everybody gets due process, to make sure everybody's constitutional rights are protected. And that's one of the reasons we don't convict people in the press. We convict them in the courtroom. And so I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it's not an easy question to answer. But all I can tell you is that I don't make moral judgments about my clients, and I've represented plenty of bad people in my day. And I always try to find a reason to humanize them. And they are human beings, no matter what they've done. And they live in the United States, and they are entitled to a presumption of innocence, and they are entitled to all the constitutional rights that are set forth in the Bill of Rights and in the Constitution. And it's our job to make sure that they're afforded their rights. And a lot of times you may not have any moves to make. And so, like I said, some cases are damage control cases. There's no moves. And you're just, you're trying to figure out a way to minimize your damages or their exposure. But it's certainly not a business for the faint of heart. That's for sure.
Yeah.
No, well, we appreciate the fact that everybody gets a good defense. And I'll tell you, when the Kilpatrick trial was going on, Ferguson and Victor Mercado and a couple other folks, I was glad that the folks facing those charges had some of the best attorneys in the city. First of all, because everybody's entitled to defense and it was a tough case. But second of all, because if you have the best defense that money can buy or that you can find, and you're still convicted it gives people a sense that, you know what, then this was a fair outcome, that these guys didn't get some schlock who went in there, didn't get was Slamica or one of these other nitwits who lose their bar card because they basically go in there and say, pay me my retainer, and then go to sleep. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and not to cut you off, ML, but I mean, all you have to do is go on death row in this country.
Right.
Okay. And you'll see so many guys that are sitting on death row that had lawyers that basically fell asleep during the trial. And now they end up on death row. Right. So it is important to have a lawyer that's going to, give 100% and do everything they can to represent their client and make sure that their constitutional rights are being protected. And unfortunately, in this country, that doesn't happen all the time.
Right, and that's a whole another problem. But a good defense, a vigorous defense, can be the best defense against having innocent people.
But to your point,
up.
yes. On the Kilpatrick case and some of the other cases that I've been involved in, some of the gang cases, everybody had good lawyers. And if they were found guilty, it wasn't for lack of effort on the defense lawyer's part.
That's right.
That is the beauty of our system. So it's not perfect, but it certainly is probably the best criminal justice system in the world.
It sure as hell better than the one Vladimir Putin's offering, folks. So
yeah, exactly.
So Mike,
yeah, exactly.
we know you got some other clients to take care of. We appreciate you making the time, and we'll try and get you back on here. Maybe we'll get you back on talking about our charity hockey game, which is coming up early in 2022. So another good fight for a good cause.
You know how to get a hold of me.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Have a great holiday.
Okay, guys.
Thanks,
Everybody have
Mike.
a great day. Thanks a lot.
Do you have a date for that hockey game, Mike?
Yes, January 22nd. And I was surprised, I was kind of monitoring things from afar as this was going down, but I was surprised that the defense attorneys, and Teresa speaks very highly of the two attorneys who are representing the parents, but I was surprised that we didn't see some of these names that we typically see with big cases, a Mike Rataj, a Gerald Evelyn, a Jim Thomas, a Bill Swore. These are the kind of folks I thought we would be hearing from as this case progressed, and that just didn't happen. So I don't know. Maybe these are some young attorneys who are going to make their bones here, and they're going to be the next wave of great defenders. But it is weird to see Junior kind of hanging out there with whatever he can get, and mom and dad saying, "Oh, hey,
For the general public, it is just so frustrating because you want these people punished. I mean, they're bad people. The parents and the kid. I don't like them. I'll admit it. It was interesting hearing him say, you got to put the moral stuff aside and find something to like about them, because the general public, I don't like them. I want them to be, put away for something. I want them to be punished for something, because you have, 4 great kids dead. You have 7 more who were shot. You have a whole area that is just devastated by this. So you want some penalty, but they're allowed due process. And I've said it before. I hate these parents. Can't fucking stand them. I don't see these charges sticking. I don't know. Maybe there's a lot more evidence than I know.
Well, we're going to see, but there's something I think we need to think about here. And Mike
Mike's still there.
On it.
Mike, did you want to comment on that?
I'm still here. I wanted to hear what he had to say. Let it play out, Mark. That's the bottom line, is that, we don't convict people in the press.
Sure.
We convict people in courtrooms, and they're entitled to their day in court. And if you happen to unfortunately be in their shoes, you would want to be afforded the same rights that they're going to get, or they're going to be afforded. And you would want a lawyer that was going to vigorously defend you, even though everybody in the free world hates your guts. So you got to flip it around.
Yeah. And as a reporter, you have to keep an open mind, even though, and you also have to remember that the cops and the prosecutors are releasing probably only the evidence that makes their case look the strongest. We don't have the complete text message exchanges. We don't know everything that happened in those meetings. And I think of a story I did just before I left the Free Press the last time about Adam Fox, where I wrote about, I had an exclusive interview with his uncle who talked about kind of what Mike was talking about, is you have a tough upbringing, and it affects you, and it can put you in a hole. And I tried to bring some of that forward. I mean, Adam Fox, for folks who don't remember, is the alleged ringleader of the plot to kidnap and maybe blow up Governor Whitmer. But I heard a lot of people saying, you're like, oh God, here we are apologizing for another terrorist. I said, no, we're just giving the other side of the story. We're just allowing people to speak for that person. That case still hasn't been resolved, but it we do, so let's assume that everybody in this whole thing is guilty as charged. Boy, who do you feel more sorry for? The kid who clearly is messed up, or the parents who had a messed up kid and didn't seem to either realize it or didn't want to do anything about it? I mean, if that was my kid, and I've been in situations where you get called to the school and your kid's having a rough day, usually we try and say, let's get the kid out of here, unless it's one of these things where they just have to, they're having a rough day and they need to power through it because they don't want to take a test or something like that. But if somebody says, hey, my kid's drawing pictures of guns and blood and I mean, I'm thinking, let me get my kid out of here for my kid's protection, let alone for the protection of all the classmates.
It certainly seemed.
You know what, though, ML? Think about this, okay? We wouldn't even be having this discussion if somebody would have had the cojones, okay, to grab that backpack away from that kid. Now, they already saw the drawings. They had the parents in there. Clearly, the kid had some issues. Nobody bothered to pull that backpack off that kid's back and look in that backpack to see whether there was a gun in there.
It is weird because they'll toss your locker for weed, but not for a 9mm, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it just, to me, every time I look at, the parents seem to be like screwballs. The kid obviously had issues, all of that, okay? But really, what the hell were these people at the high school thinking? All you had to do was grab the kid's backpack and look inside and find the 9mm, and it's all over, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's over.
Do you think they'll be charged? Someone involved with the school? I mean, criminally.
Who knows?
What's
who
that?
Knows?
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be up to Karen McDonald. That to me, that would be a tougher road to hoe in terms of criminal charges. But just, we're just a bunch of people here talking. And it seems to me that, the most logical thing that could have been done was, what do you got in your backpack, kid?
Yeah. Yep.
Open it up.
Yeah, I guess you just would, they would assume that this kid wouldn't have a gun, but the two people that knew that he had access to a gun in some shape or form are the parents who were there.
No question about it. But yeah. If I was a teacher in that school and I saw these pictures and then didn't they look at his phone? Maybe I'm incorrect. Didn't somebody have a chance to look at his phone or something and see his text messages? Maybe not.
Yeah,
but even so,
it's been reported that he was caught looking for ammo online by a teacher who saw.
There you go.
Presumably playing.
That's why they had one of the reasons they had the meeting.
You got that fact, and then you have a teacher seeing these. These drawings, and nobody had the common sense to just peek in the kid's backpack to see whether he had a gun
or his locker.
Well, I remember getting trained in school for disasters, and we used to have these like really heavy vinyl curtains on the windows, and supposedly they were heavy enough that if there was a nuclear blast, they would keep the shrapnel from coming through the windows. And that was kind of, back then it was, get under your desk because there might be a hurricane or maybe the Reds are going to bomb us or something like that. Now kids take training about what to do if there's an active shooter in their school. And when I was at Fox 2, we had the Oakland County Sheriff's deputies come and provide that training to our staff because people do get kind of nutty around media outlets. But when we watched it and they said, this is the same kind of training that we give to kids, I mean, I was almost weeping when we got to the end of that because I thought, I don't want my kid to have training like this because I think and they need it, but it makes your kid feel like, hey, wait a minute. Could I be killed at school?
ML,
are you telling me that somebody could come to my school and kill me?
Because
when I went to school, I thought somebody could come to my school and like bring a goat from the local petting zoo or maybe some cookies, Not that they might come and smoke my ass while I'm sitting there in art class.
I always felt that
it's
way.
Horrible how we've evolved.
My daughter's in 2nd grade. They do this now, and I'm like, oh boy, does that create a sense of fear? But you know what? They do fire drills. We do fire drills. Fires can be scary too. You know, I'd rather them be prepared.
No, they have to have the training, but
look how many lives were saved in Oxford because they had that training, because they shut the doors, because they locked it down.
I'm just saying where we've come as a society.
I know
and the fire training isn't, hey, by the way, boys and girls, I'm fireman friendly. Sometimes fire comes into your room and tries to burn you.
No, I understand.
And your teacher should get in front of that fire, and you should go out of it.
It's a sad reality.
We used to have nuclear bomb training
in
schools, right?
Yeah. Now now don't worry about the Russians. Worry about that spaz who's been staring at his phone all day in 5th hour.
I think that word went out in the 90s, but yeah.
Spaz? That's why ML uses it.
I know.
It's terrible.
Because that's when he stopped paying attention to
to pop culture. Yeah, until about 85, 86.
It's terrible.
All right, boys, I got to run.
Thank you, Mike.
Everybody have a great day.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Which one of you asked the question about the empathy for the parents? Was it you, Mike? The empathy for the parents of the kid?
I was channeling Shawn, who always finds a reason to like people. I mean, I think that's a very defense attorney approach where you have got to find the humanity of your client because you're going to be stuck in very tight quarters with them for a year or more sometimes and realize I'm sitting next to an evil, horrible person, and I just need to make sure that they don't get any more punishment than they deserve.
It's tough with the 15-year-old, though, right? Because of how we think about the line between childhood
maybe,
and adulthood.
But honestly, then I just think of Tate Muir and medicine.
And I do too, but then I listen to the video he made, right? He made a little video, 2-3 years ago? And you're seeing this lonely kid who's kind of reaching out. And maybe the school system tried to help a bit. I don't know about you. Both of you guys have kids. When my kids were little, my worst fear was when they grew up or got older that I was not going to understand them or be able to relate to them, because sometimes you know that happens. You have a parent or parents that do not understand their children, and I would bet you anything these guys did not understand him.
Maybe, but they didn't. I don't think they really tried. I don't think they really wanted to. There was a story over the week, and the Free Press did a big story about when the parents were in custody. One of the things that was kind of buried deep in the story was the neighbors telling they used to live in Lake Orion, and the neighbors said, hey, he was 9. Ethan Crumbley was 9, and he would come over because the parents were out and left him home alone, no phone, no nothing. They just went out to the bar. I mean, I don't think they wanted to know their kid. I don't think they cared about him.
That's probably true. I'm not saying they didn't.
Legally, you don't have to care about your kids.
I'm not saying that
it's wrong.
But then in some of the other school shootings where we don't talk about the parents like we did this one, right? Because there hadn't been the meeting and then the shooting, an hour and a half later, 2 hours later, whatever it was. We've never had that juxtaposition before. And that's really brought the parents into the forefront in a way that I don't recall.
Well, I got to tell you, though, Parkland and Nicholas Cruz, I mean, there were plenty of warnings, too, there, where the adoptive parents...
There were, and then
he had a key to the gun lock.
And there was a relative involved.
The mom in Sandy Hook should have been charged if these parents are going to be charged.
And there was a movie, was it made with Tilda Swinton? I'm not remember who the dad was, and they had a kid who did this, and it was sort of from their perspective. It was a really brutal movie.
Yeah,
and I don't remember the name. It's been in the last 6-7 years, but just kind of looking at that and what that might be like if you don't see that coming.
You know, it's funny. Maybe I'm just not there yet because I just think of the parents of the victims, and it's, that's far worse.
I'm not talking about.
I know. I'm not comparing them.
I
understand that. But yeah, I don't know. Very little sympathy.
To me, I liken it to a little bit to suicide. You can be right there with your child
and not know. Well, that's
or not be able to, or know and try to get them help, and then still not be able to stop it.
Well, and we have way far to go to figure out what happened here. But the difference between a kid who's contemplating hurting themselves and you not knowing it because maybe the kid's not communicative or you're caught up in your career and trying to pay the bills and all that other stuff. You have multiple kids and it's tough to keep track of all of them. There's all kinds of ways that happens, but, or sometimes their medication changes and then that can have an unexpected personality swing on a kid that no one expects, not even the doctors. That's different from having a kid who says, I have these feelings, and your response is, Merry Christmas, Junior. Here's a Sig Sauer. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened here. That's kind of
But
what's
that
been
is different.
reported,
That's
and we
what's
need to find
different.
that out. But if your kid says, boy, Mom and Dad, I've really been thinking I'm unhappy, and I would like to drive through the homecoming parade at top speed in our pickup truck. And you say, Junior, here's the keys to the truck. If that's what happened here, let the rhythm hit him. Let him take the full weight of this, because really,
Well, then it's case closed if he was ever thinking about that. But I mean, the parents were told that he needs counseling.
And the mom said, "Don't get caught." Right? Wasn't that?
Yeah, LOL. Next time, don't get caught. Which I had to say, if I had a kid who was searching for something during school and they weren't supposed to be, regardless of what they were searching for, I'd be livid.
well, this is all
It was
part.
there's an sorry, Mike. There's an anti-authoritarianism with these parents, right? And they were
It
trying
seems
to
to be,
teach
yeah.
their son that.
Yeah, screw the man. Hey, believe me, nobody believes in screwing the man more than I do. But smoking everybody in your homeroom is different from challenging authority. And I think at some point, I mean, I don't know. Kids are such a mess these days. But if you know your kid is a danger, let's just look at it this way. Your kid's a danger to himself.
Yeah.
Do you want to have that gun in the house? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have guns in our home. I don't have one in my home. You come in my house, I'll kick your ass. I don't need anything. But if you're going to have that gun, can you have it locked? Can you have it in a safe? I mean, there's thumbprint safes you can put right next to your bed.
That's what
If you're worried about
That's
being
what
able to get to
reasonable
your
people
gap.
do.
Some kids have had. On some level, kids have always been a mess, right? It's part of it. It's like saying that we're the only one. The Americans are the only one that struggle with mental illness. Because that's one of the arguments you hear so often. Well, we need to have better treatment. We need to have more facilities. We need to spot the signs earlier. Well, every country on the planet has citizens who suffer from mental illness, but they don't have these issues. So what's the difference?
Before we move on to something fun, I do want to point out regarding Oxford High in the school, because there's a lot of anger towards them. I think the two teachers that made it aware, that he's searching for ammo, or the one teacher that took a picture of the drawing that Ethan made before he, crossed everything out so he couldn't be caught, which shows a little intent there. Like, he's smart enough to do that. I think that's very heads up, and I don't know what kind of training a teacher gets, but some teachers could have gone, "Oh, what a stupid drawing."
I'm sure they get training,
but good for those two teachers to move it up the system, to elevate it up the system. I just wish, and obviously with hindsight, it's a lot easier that the counselor. I don't know what kind of counselor they were, that they didn't elevate it another level when the parents wouldn't take them home. And now we have 4 dead and 7 others shot, and
it's just awful.
On the bright side,
yeah, segue out of that.
yeah, they inspired the Lions to win. I mean, that was a little. I was like, oh, the Lions are winning for the kids in Oxford. I'm like, what? Just keep this crap.
Same thing happened in Michigan.
Yeah, and I didn't like it there either.
The 42.
Really, yeah, I mean, it's.
I like the patch and honoring them.
That I'm fine with.
Yeah,
that I'm fine. Now, I just.
I mean, the parents were at that game, by the way, and they went out for the toss.
Yeah.
It
seemed a little weird to me too. I would have been at home, but I'm not. I'm not here to judge somebody who's dealing.
It's a welcome distraction, I would think.
Way.
I would think so.
But I don't know if I'd want to be on national TV. I mean,
I
wouldn't want to be on national TV now.
Well, to them, they're going out and they're honoring their son in a way they never would otherwise.
Well,
right?
I got no problem with that. I just think some of these sports teams, I don't know. I think they're trying to deal themselves in on a big story, and that I have a little bit of a problem.
Well, maybe they care. I mean, you saw Dan Campbell's press conference, right?
I did not.
Oh, you did? You saw it, right?
I did. Yeah.
I mean, that was. I felt that was incredibly genuine,
and I think the players feel that too, because I think they feel on some level, a lot of professional athletes feel they are stewards, of their community in a way, right? And that they have a voice, and they want to.
Well, when it suits them, they are. When they act like assholes, then they're not. I don't raise your kids.
But that's not true for everybody, right? I mean, there's some that are genuine, and maybe there's some that aren't. And I think, like everything else. But that doesn't mean the ones that are genuine we should just out of hand dismiss because they were trying to raise to honor this boy, this young man, this young football player in Oxford, Tate Meyer, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure the Lions would have tried to win no matter what, but that's fine. I
understand what you're saying. I just think I don't know. It's It's tough.
There's all kinds of people who try and get a toehold on these big stories and these big situations. And to me,
there are some people that capitalize on it.
Like we're doing on the podcast, huh?
Well, we're trying to talk about
but that's my point. We're all talking about it. We're all, it doesn't mean we all have bad motives. I don't.
But we're not doing this podcast to try and heal people. We're trying to discuss this topic that's in the news. This is not. We're not dedicating this podcast to anybody but our listeners.
Well, I don't think the Lions are trying to heal anybody as much as trying to honor somebody, and I think there's a difference.
Well,
are you guys going to start fighting again?
No.
I guess so. I guess the other difference is the Lions are a bunch of big losers.
You just don't like the Lions.
Okay, that's different.
And on that point, can you tell us about a sponsor?
Yeah.
Because that's the only way I know how to say.
So here's who's not a big loser.
Oh, by the way, you were just angry they won. Sorry.
What?
You were angry they won? Is that what's really going on?
No. I just to me, and I don't know what went on behind the scenes, but to me, if I was grieving and the Lions came to me, I'd say, you know what? You've caused enough suffering in my life. Just move on. Just stay away from me. But anyways, you know who the big losers are?
Who?
The people who tried to get their feather bowling holiday party at the Cadre on Fridays and Saturdays because they are completely booked. They are fully booked for the weekends through the end of the year, but the Cadre Cafe on the east side still offers great food, great fun, feather bowling other nights of the week. Yes, those lanes are booked Fridays and Saturdays to the end of the year, but you can call now and still get a holiday party scheduled before 2022. Do not wait around. Give them a call. And of course, whether the feather bowling lanes are full or not, they still have live music. They still have great eats. They have a fantastic tap and a great staff. So if you want to find out what's going on at the Cadre Cafe, or you want to contact them to try and book your holiday party before it's too late, it's getting pretty close to being too late. So do not tarry. Shawn, let me say tarry and didn't say anything. That's pretty good. You can go to cadjucafe.com. That's cadjucafe.com. And Cadju,
can you spell that for me?
Cadieux.
How do you spell cafe?
Cadieux, cafe. CAF, no accent.
Now let's assume everything is booked up and I have to have a party at home. Is there a place I should maybe get some food to cater from?
Well, they'll either make the food for you or they'll supply you with some amazing
Let's say I'm up
vittles.
in Sylvan Lake. Let's say I'm up that way and I can't make it.
I wouldn't limit myself to the neighborhood. I mean, I drove out to Sylvan Lake from the east side to get my turkey from the butchery, where Dave Hubbard and Chef Julie are always there providing great eats, meats, and treats. TheButcherySL.com, 248-682-COWS. That's 248-682-COWS. When you go to the butchery, you'll find out why Chef Dave and Chef Julie say, don't just eat meat, experiencing it. Boy, I'm sorry, I've been a little rusty here. Don't just eat meat.
Take 1 week off and
experience it. Actually, I didn't take a week off. I just dialed in remotely. The butchery is on Sylvan Lake Road in Orchard Lake. They are closed Mondays and Tuesdays, but every other day of the week, get in there, get some great grub. That's the butchery. SL.com.
Oh man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek, or we're turning into cool guys?
So this is just what I was afraid of.
what?
Not my Michigan Wolverines actually put together a decent season, and all of a sudden, Big Blue,
a playoff season.
They got beat by the Spartans. Big Blue
still in the playoffs
is the best team ever, and every player is the best player ever. And so my Geek of the Week are the Heisman voters. Listen to this. I want to read you this stat line. 31 solo tackles, 47 assists, 78 total tackles, 15 and a half tackles for a loss, 10 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, 1 touchdown, and 1 forced fumble. You know who did that?
Will Johnson.
No. Anybody?
Who?
Kenny Willekes, who was not even mentioned in the Heisman, who played for a far inferior team than Hutchinson,
what
who
I
had.
would say is
that
just shows we need
Hutchinson
better.
Had 20 fewer tackles, had the same number of tackles for loss, had 3 more sacks, had 1 fewer fumble recovery, had one less touchdown and did force one additional fumble. And all of a sudden, he's one of the top 4 players. He wasn't even one of the top defensive players in the country.
You're
this
insane.
is ridiculous.
You're insane.
No, don't take my word for top.
No, take NFL scouts who are going to tell their GMs they'll be drafted at 2 or 3.
Yeah, so I know
Pro Football Focus, who grades every single play. I mean, defensive stats in general can be misleading, but defensive stats.
And what does PFF?
You run away from.
Tell them what PFF says.
Well, he's the number 1 player.
Yeah, that he's put one of the best rush performances.
I watched.
So then why was Will Anderson given the Nagurski Award as the top defender in the country?
That's the
Nagurski people. Yeah, I don't know.
That's the top, but
I got to tell
your
you,
boy Hutchinson wasn't even one of the top 3.
I was telling Shawn this before the show. There's only 3 or 4 guys that I would watch on defense in all the times I've been watching Michigan football where I don't watch the ball, I watch the defense. Aiden's one of them. Woodson's another. Jabril Peppers and oh my God, I'm trying to
awesome.
Huh?
Ajabo, also pretty good.
Devin
Hutchinson
Bush.
has the help of Ajabo.
Defensive end. Why am I Woodley? Lamar Woodley.
Oh, Woodley.
But I would just sit and watch that position.
His arms were bigger than his legs.
It's amazing. People can complain about him being in the Heisman or not being in the being
Should
a
not be a
Heisman.
Heisman finalist. Not over K9. No way.
Oh, that's what this is about.
No way.
Oh, so you think
Absolutely
you
ridiculous.
think Kenneth Walker's being blocked out by Aiden Hutchinson? That's what it is?
No, I'm just saying Aiden Hutchinson does not deserve to be a Heisman finalist, and certainly he doesn't deserve to be a Heisman finalist more than my man.
Why?
Number 9 in the backfield there for Michigan State because
sounds a little bitter.
No, but this is something that Spartan fans have been talking for. Willick's numbers are far better than Hutchinson's numbers.
It's not just numbers, though. You know that. Now, why do you
Sports
think
is all about numbers? That's what analytics are.
No, it's not.
That's what
it's
it is
all
now.
It's all part of the equation.
No.
How come the winner is typically from a team that is in the national championship game?
Really? Is that who Kenny Pickett is? Is that who C.J. Stroud is? I mean, come on.
Well, Pickett, you just couldn't deny the stats, but typically the winner comes from a team that is in the playoffs now, or at least the national championship, because that's all part of the whole deal. It's not just numbers.
No, that's
John.
That's jacked up.
Well,
Yeah,
people
no,
are going
it's
to say
true.
I'm biased, but I'll let you handle it.
That's jacked up.
Well, the thing about Walker, and I was telling you this off
He's
the air,
phenomenal.
off the air, is that I don't know how good Michigan State is without him this year. So he kind
I
of
would agree.
brought some juice and explosiveness in a way that was nobody saw coming. I mean, Mel Tucker might have, and the coaching staff up there. But yeah, they're not a 10-win team, that's for sure, without Walker.
Dude put up 5 touchdowns against Michigan. Is that right?
You take
against Aiden Hutchinson?
You take
and the head-to-head against the greatest player in defensive history?
Well, wait a second.
The problem is,
wait a sec. To
the
that
problem
point,
is Hutchinson. What Hutchinson did against Ohio State versus on the biggest stage versus what Walker did.
and
that's where this was won and lost.
Hutchinson.
No, forget that. Go with the head-to-head. Walker versus Hutchinson. Walker owns Michigan.
Well,
sorry.
Aiden owned C.J. Stroud, and he's a Heisman finalist. He sacked him 3 times.
So take Stroud out too. I'm fine with that.
So just give it to Walker. Period.
No. I'm just saying. I'm saying this Hutchinson thing is he's riding that blue wave because people have been waiting for this team to be more than dog
He's
shit
not
for a
riding
long
the blue
time.
wave. He's riding.
Watched him enough.
He's riding the winning wave of a team. That's what he's riding. It's not a blue wave. It could be anybody that's.
Oh, so they're not the blue team?
Had this no, you have a win that's as big as anything you've had in 20 years. It's on a national stage. It's part of the biggest rivalry or one of the biggest rivalries in the national college football scene. You do it there and you come back and win the Big Ten. That's what he's riding. It's not the blue wave. It's the winning wave, to Mark's point. This is how the Heisman works, because most voters don't get to see
every single snap.
No, they don't.
And honestly, I was telling
they don't. I'm a voter.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Who'd you vote
Can you
for?
tell? Are you allowed to say? Is this like a
He
Hall
can
of Fame?
say. He's just like he's just.
No, I think you can say. I had Bryce Young, Aiden Hutchinson, and Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, I think
you can only vote for 3.
Thoroughly, yeah.
Yeah.
And they come. Is it 4 finalists?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
And I got to say, regarding defensive players,
And I thought about Kenny Pitts, by the way. It was hard.
but his team, ACC champions.
Yeah,
but they're still
no,
ranked
and he's
lower.
really, really, really good. And we'll see. They get to play the Spartans in the Peach Bowl, so we'll see.
I think defensive players just get a bad rap anyway. I mean, Ndamukong Suh should have won the Heisman that year in 2009, without a doubt, and he finished 4th.
But I think Hutchinson's coming back, and his energy and the way he plays, not just what, obviously he's a he's a destructive force in the pocket and on the defensive line, but he's a central part of this team's renaissance. I mean, there are a lot of things that went into it. And to me, that's worth something too. The same with Kenneth Walker, which is why I put him on there, because I feel like Michigan State might have been a 6-7 win team without him.
Without a doubt.
Hutchison has a lot more help than Walker does. That Ajabo is a beast.
Oh, so because the rest of the team is not as good, that's why he's better?
No,
but their linebackers
Shawn just said that he thinks Walker is a difference maker on that team.
Yes.
I'm saying Hutchinson
is
has
too.
other difference makers on his side of the ball.
Ojabo's one of them, but that defense is not a stellar Michigan. I mean, their linebackers are fine. They've got one solid cover corner, right?
Yeah, well, they got Dax, Hill.
Yeah,
Ross,
and he's a pro. And yeah, Ross is a good player, linebacker. For sure he's got some help. But that's like saying Walker doesn't have any help before Naylor got hurt, with two really, really good receivers and
a good quarterback.
And a good quarterback, yeah, for sure.
Head-to-head, Walker 5 touchdowns, Hutchinson. So Heisman,
so one game, okay.
Heisman hype suckers, you are my geek of the week.
God, sore loser. You know who's not a sore
Actually,
loser?
they didn't lose. They beat Michigan. So they're sore about that.
No, I'm talking about Kenneth Walker.
Sorry. Oh, yeah.
You're being a sore loser about that.
Who's not a sore loser?
Both these guys aren't. Let's start with
They're winners.
The big winner, Luke Nowacki, and he wants your money to win for you. He wants you to be a long-term investor, and you need a strategy, so you need to call our buddy Luke Nowacki, Pinnacle Wealth, 248-663-4748, because he provides rational financial advice. No
That's
hot
all I'm
takes.
asking for, something rational. That's all.
Yeah, exactly, just like the Heisman voters did.
Yeah, irrational exuberance.
Oh, please.
You won't get that with Luke. Luke is steady. 20, 30 carries in the snow.
He has a long view of the market, and he's going to help you make some money, get advice, get a strategy. Call Luke Nowacki, Pinnacle Wealth, 248-663-4748.
Because he'll make it all about the best players who are eligible for the Heisman and you, sweetheart.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates Inc. Member FINRA SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and/or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates Inc.
And the other guy is David Hall.
Hey, David Hall.
Tell me about David Hall, or you want me to tell you about David Hall?
No, I'll just tell you, if you haven't gotten your letter from David Hall offering you a much lower rate if you refinance, you have not been checking the mail. Maybe Santa has intercepted your mail because you've been very bad. But David Hall will get you rates. And they're talking about fiddling with things over at the Fed, which means those rates could go up. I think they're still getting you rates somewhere in the 2s. Is that right, Mark?
Well, the only way to find out is by calling 866-CALL-HALL or going on the website Call Hall First. We have a link on ML Sola Detroit as well, where you can check out what Hall Financial can do for you. And they're open pretty much all the time, 7 days a week. They're available on the weekends. So if, I know football's over, but maybe you're watching a football game in between. In halftime, you can call Hall, and they're going to help you refinance, get some money out of your house. NMLS number 1467435. Callhallfirst.com or 866-CALL-HALL.
There's an all-night party in room 7609. And you can dance together all night if you've got the time.
So if you missed Ashes to Ashes, which is a great English procedural, it's sort of time-bending, turning the whole cop procedural premise on its head, you are missing some of the greatest new wave music that you will ever hear as a music bed or in the background of any TV show ever. And so for December, we are highlighting songs that you may have picked up as you listen to that show. And this week, we bring you Club Country by the Associates. And even if you guys don't like this, you're going to be surprised to hear who loves the Associates.
That's a good tease.
Oh, yeah.
the fault is, I can find no fault in you. It's all to say it, or I'll say it for you. If we stick around, we're sure to be looked down upon. What better way, or should I say? Two words, could they be so good as one? Therein lies the perfect pseudonym. To think you've learned to know someone and find that you don't know them at all.
Heard of the Associates before?
No, not at all. I've never even heard that song. It's not that bad.
Are you?
No, but I prefer the Association.
Are you looking for more Associates after that, or
yes.
Have you had plenty?
No, I'll look at any band.
Okay. Well, they're an interesting group. They did not have a lengthy career, but their career was impactful on people such as Bono, who considers them a fantastic band, and I think he's been quoted saying, "The Associates are better than us." Sorry, that's if he was from Liverpool.
I was going to say it sounded more like a Beatle.
Sorry, yeah, that maybe. Bono's bigger than John. That's what I meant to say. But,
well, what else can you tell us about this band? I've never even heard of them again.
Yeah, they were just kind of early in the new wave movement, sort of a post-punk poppy group that they made their splash by covering a David Bowie song right after this David Bowie song went out. And apparently they were not quite as good as Bowie, and there's a lot of people who fall into that category. But it was sort of a publicity grab, and it got people's attention, and it sort of launched their musical career, which is interesting because Ashes to Ashes is a great David Bowie song. And Life on Mars, which was the first series in this British police procedural. I don't even know what you call it, a series, because it's, you know, how the British are different. They'll do like 8 episodes one season, then 8 episodes the next season. They won't do anything. It's sort of like Larry David. You know, he's stolen the way British people do TV. Larry David does Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like, let's do 6 episodes. And then we won't do anything for a couple of years.
Well, that's the way to do it, man.
Well, I guess, you know, it's one way if you're not feeling creative.
Well, why add stuff?
Pump out a season of garbage. Yeah, why have Fonzie jump the Shark Tank?
Exactly.
Have you watched the new Curb, by the way, Mark?
Love it. Yeah. Yeah. You?
No.
No, you haven't watched it, or no, you don't like it?
I've only seen the first 2. It's flat.
What?
To me. And I didn't enjoy the
it's the Aiden Hutchinson of comedy.
Abortion kind of.
The what?
The pregnancy and, you know, abortion, and is she trying to be a gold digger and all that? I don't know.
I don't even remember that episode. Well, wait till you get to the watermelon episode.
Okay.
In the Klansman episode, same episode.
Okay.
Because I think he takes tough topics like that.
He does. He
and
does.
boils
he does.
it down.
And I've always really enjoyed Curb. Yeah.
Because the genius behind it is Larry David is always the worst person on that show.
He is.
And of course, he's a big new wave music fan, which is why that reference was right on.
By you?
No, by Shawn.
You
referenced
Wait, what do you think? What do you think about that show? I haven't really watched.
I've seen it.
No, because he wants to know if he should continue to watch it.
Exactly.
I think the last 2 episodes have been fantastic.
Did you say reference or relevant?
Either one.
Oh, okay.
The reference is not.
Are you guys going to fight again?
So anyway.
No, quit trying to start trouble.
I'm not starting it.
You're encouraging it.
Oh, I just got my popcorn.
So anyway, that was Club Country by the Associates. If you don't really want to watch Ashes to Ashes, that's fine. But I encourage you to.
Do you get points if people watch it? I mean, I feel like.
Oh yeah, part of the Soul of Detroit Points Club. No, it's just it's such.
Make money if we watch it.
It's such a period specific series, and it has tons of music in it, and it's sort of a crash course in new wave hits and some obscura. So if you don't feel like watching Ashes to Ashes, but you want to learn about what was really cool in the early 80s, check out their playlists. And if you have one you'd like us to play, send us a note at mlsoulofdetroit@gmail.com. Believe it or not, we do have a phone line. It's notable only for its lack of use, but you can call us and leave us a message at 313-288-9070. That's Butterfield 89070. We would love to hear from you, your suggestions for great new wave hits that only you know about, or some obscure stuff like the Associates, who have an interesting story and an interesting sound that you want to introduce to the whole world. I have to tell you, I'm not sure that I love the Associates. I hear some of what they're doing is kind of cool, and I see some things in here where I'm like, yeah, I like that. That's kind of, I see where that's going. And then there's some of them I'm like, yeah, I think I'm probably not going to put them in heavy rotation. But who am I? I'm no Bono. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And neither is he. He's Paul Houston. So that's the way it goes. We appreciate your support of the show. The best way to do it is to advertise with us. It's much cheaper than you think. It's much cheaper than we'd like. But shoot us a message and we'll tell you exactly how cheap it is. That's mlsoulofdetroit@gmail.com. You can also donate to the show. Mark, I'm going to ask you to tell people how to donate because people forgot.
Yeah, that message isn't getting across. Is that what you're across? Is that what you're saying? No. mlsoulofdetroit.com. All those letters in a row. mlsoulofdetroit.com. And then right at the top, there's a little donate button.
Is that easy?
Super easy.
Wow. Okay.
Very simple.
Damn. Well, we did not score on Giving Tuesday, but Killer Cares did, setting a new fundraising record of $122,000. And we know that they only hit that new plateau because of our listeners and people with big hearts. So thank you for supporting.
Nowacki was out there. Luke Nowacki was out there.
Oh yeah, he's wherever there's a good cause, he's there.
He's there. Yeah,
he's like the Tom Joad of good causes. I know Shawn knows Tom Joad, but we'd appreciate if you'd subscribe to the show, if you would share the show, and if you would rate the show. We don't really have any ratings this week. We don't really have much feedback, positive or negative. I don't know if people are still tripping on the tryptophan. But Jim writes that he is concerned about a recent article asking the question, when in-demand talent can work from anywhere, what will happen to Michigan? And I don't know what that answer is. I'm casting a wide job search, and I'm hoping that whatever whatever gig I line up. It will not be based in Michigan, but hopefully they'll let me stay in Michigan because I'm not going anywhere. But Dan Gilbert just bought Cadillac Tower. So clearly the man who seems to see the future feels confident that there will still be demand for office space in our central business district, because that is a big ass building.
So is that what Jim's saying? If you can work from anywhere, why would anybody live in Michigan?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of things to like.
I think
here.
we'd actually get more people because of the lakes.
Yeah, I think Michigan's a wonderful state. There's a lot of stuff to do. It's just right now it sucks because the weather sucks.
Yeah.
I wonder if Jim really means what's going to happen downtown.
Well, there's that too.
Because that was booming and now everybody's working from home. And even if I do find another job, I'm sure there won't be an office downtown. I'm sure I'll be working from my house. So we'll see.
Could be worse. Could be in a basement.
Actually, my basement's still recovering from the flood. But yes, I could be trapped in this basement every day, like Mr. Fellhauer. Or,
willingly trapped.
Yes, it's like
Stockholm syndrome.
It's like being married to Drew. That's weird and creepy in a lot of different ways.
God.
So as I continue to cast about looking for my next job, Shawn has his own new side gig, the Carlos and Shawn podcast. What's going on with the Carlos and Shawn podcast?
Oh, we have the great Mick McCabe on our next episode.
What's up with Mick?
He'll just
Son of Swami.
Yeah, he will. He's got a book that's out. I think the Golden Years, 50 years of stories and tales and all the dream teams in high school football and I think basketball and maybe girls basketball. I have to clarify that a little bit, but yeah,
he's been on the high school beat that long.
Just about, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he's been covering high school sports since I think some of
late
these
60s,
these kids' grandparents were playing when they were on the team.
Yeah,
Talk about an evolution of a sport, man.
So yeah, no, he's seen it all. He's got good stories. He'll come on and he'll insult us and do what he does. And
a man after my own heart.
Are you going to fight with Carlos?
No, I'm not going to fight with Carlos. No. So yeah, there we go. We might have to talk actual hockey because the Wings are kind of, not too bad, right? And entertaining at the very least.
Yeah, the rookies don't bet against Eisman. If he says somebody's going to be good, that's where you put your money. And I, after we leave here today, will be stopping by a nearby home to pick up a snake pole, whatever the hell that is, that my travel companion in Costa Rica has asked me to bring, because he said,
"What is it? What is a snake pole?"
I don't know, but
to ward off snakes, right?
He said,
well, I would assume, but how does it work?
This apparently has something to do with herpetology, which I don't hope doesn't mean he has herpes. I think it means he studies snakes or something like that.
Oh, it's one of those. It's a grabber. It's like a selfie stick
right.
with a grabber.
Perhaps.
Okay.
But I think
that's what Google told me.
I think we'll be telling you a little bit more about that as we dial in from Costa Rica, where I'll be riding motorcycles for the next week or so.
When are you going down? When are you going to be gone? When are you going down? When are you coming back?
Thursday, but I'll still have people in my house who don't steal shit.
Well, that's not why I was asking.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
You're leaving in 2 days.
In 2 days.
And where do you go?
And how long are you gone?
8 or 9 days.
Okay, so you won't be here next week.
I will be dialing in from Costa Rica, as I just said a minute ago.
Oh.
I'm sure that internet's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't trust our connections and our friends?
Well, that sounds like a great
No,
trip.
I trust Costa Rica.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds like a great trip.
Figure out the other part of that equation.
Yeah, so we'll just have to find some Wi-Fi. So we may be talking about snake poles and whatnot on the next episode of ML Soul of Detroit.
That's cool. That's going to be a fun trip, man.
I hope so. I'm a
little envious.
I need to get out of town. So
you just were.
Yeah, but this is like out of town.
Yeah, but I've been in a basement 6 days a week for the last 2 years.
We need to work on getting you out a little bit more, son. You got that moon.
January 10th.
What's January 10th?
Indianapolis.
Oh, okay. Okay.
If they can beat Georgia. Yeah.
What do you mean if? When?
Okay.
I ain't scared of Georgia. Are you scared of Georgia?
There you go. You were scared of Iowa, and they fell.
I wasn't really scared.
48 to 3 or 42 to 3. Shit, man. What did Uncle ML tell you? No offense for Iowa. You guys should truck them.
Yeah, 0. Yeah,
and you did. So, so there you go. And if you're looking for something to keep you entertained in the meantime, the other Red Shovel Network shows, they can help kill some time. That's Charlie LaDuff's No BS News Hour, and of course, the Drew and Mike podcast, the show that makes all these others possible. Don't blame them; it just happened. So thanks for listening, and we will be back next week. In the meantime, we'll be chilling with our man Cyrus as soon as he takes us out.
Can you dig that?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
I don't think you realize what an impact you've had on
podcasting.
You've been our greatest ambassador. And I just want to say for all of these people out here, we really appreciate all the things that you've done for podcasting and wish you the very best in your retirement.
Nobody's had more